Welcome back to the Wealth Channel. I'm Phil Cubetta, and I'm here with Marty Carter, who's a counselor with families here in the Philadelphia area, works with them and their advisors on their money issues. Marty, let's pick up where we left off. Let's say that we're talking about wealth and families and how to have the conversation about money with the family. And it's a new couple, a couple that's getting married, let's say. How do they begin talking about money? How do you get them talking, getting off on the right foot and discussing money?
My wish would be that they seriously consider doing a prenup agreement. And I've come a long way, actually 180 degrees on that, because 30, 40 years ago when I started doing this, people thought of having a prenup as, what's the matter, don't you trust me? And I say, it's really another form of insurance. You have house insurance, fire insurance, health insurance, yada, 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 and you need to have this insurance. So the first step would be for them to agree to go and talk to somebody, to a financial advisor, not to an attorney yet. They need to go, I think, see a financial planner. One of the places where couples go awry, and you think about it, it makes sense. When people get together, they're in love, they run away from the rest of the world with something that approaches the speed of light, and they just don't hear anything. Mm-hmm. So the whole idea of making an appointment to go and do this sort of pedantic plan and talking to an attorney about what happens if you get divorced really doesn't make sense to them. Right. So there has to be some way to encourage them to do that.
What level of family wealth does this presuppose? In other words, a prenup and all that. I mean, what is the context within which that arises?
My experience in that's fairly limited, and it's limited to working with high net worth families. And there's always a need for prenup just because there's a lot of stuff, and there needs to be some protection. I also suggest that families who maybe don't have a significant amount of wealth still have the conversation. They may not have a legal document, but what you want to do is have them start talking about what their experience is with money. The worst thing that can happen is you don't have the conversation and there's secrets.
Right.
If somebody has money, somebody has great debts when they come into the family relationship or into the marriage, and they don't tell the other person, it's hard enough to get through married life. It's a lot of work. Yep. But then when you face secrets and you find out that your spouse came into the marriage with $30,000 of debt and didn't tell you, I've still got graduate school loans he hadn't paid or whatever, that smacks of betrayal.
Right.
Smacks of distrust.
So who would be the people you would see in what order and kind of working through this if the couple's coming together and one has, let's say, debt and the other doesn't, but there are differences in their situation? Who would be the first person they would say? Who would provoke the conversation?
I think you have to figure out how you're going to get them to the planner to begin with. And that's, as I said earlier, that's not easy to do because they're all caught up in getting married, all the newness and be nice to each other and being careful about where they leave their dirty clothes in the New York Times on the paper. I don't think there's a particular answer for that other than saying somebody has to have the conversation with the clients. If it's a wealthy client, that's a no-brainer because there are going to be lots of families advisors who want in on this and to protect the family, and they're to circle the wagons. But to encourage a couple to sit down and think about what are their goals, what are their values, what are their money beliefs? That's really, really important. And by money beliefs, I mean, what are their attitudes toward money? What are their behaviors toward money? You need to know what you're working with, and you need to know whether you're on the same sheet of music of your spouse or something that's very, very different.
Right. How do you handle the emotional dynamics? How do you keep it safe so that one party doesn't feel threatened by the conversation or both feel threatened by it?
That question, I was working with a couple last week in which they actually work together quite well about money until it's the end of the month and it's time to pay the bills. Now, most families don't talk about money in terms of concept, but they talk about money when things are bad. They talk about money when there's a credit card debt. And So one of the safe rules is you don't have conversations about your financial goals at the same time you're writing the check. The second thing you do is you don't blame the other person. What can light my fire faster than anything else if my husband were to say, it's just like your mother when you do that. It's like, we don't go there.
Yeah, I'm having flashbacks to.
You've been there too?
I think we all have been there to some degree. What do you recommend for couples who are starting their financial future together and they've got really different backgrounds in money, financial situations? Is there something they should do themselves to kind of take responsibility for that?
First of all, they need to talk about it, and you need to have somebody help them have that conversation. One of the problems that you run into if you have somebody with no money marrying into a wealthy family, you've got the wealthy family, the room of advisors who are protecting and circling the wagons and making sure that if something happens in a divorce, their client will not give away the farm. This is a shift because you're really asking the advisors for both the husband and the wife or partners to work collaboratively. Now that's very different than the traditional estate model where he has his attorney and he's going to protect it and she has yours.
Negotiation.
Really asking, can you come up with a plan that's going to take care of our needs? And it's based on what could be good for this relationship as opposed to only what are the safeguards.
Right, and what's good for the money.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Marty.
You're welcome.
This is the Wealth Channel. Thank you for tuning in.